Bah!
Hey, welcome. Oh, that's you. You do that.
Why is now the camera's totally...
Oh, probably because I was in here. See?
Oh, okay.
You just gotta give us...
Right.
Are you mad at our robotic cameraman?
Yes. Damn
Already?
it. Get your together, robotic camera. Okay. Welcome. This is AI for Humans.
It's the first time I can kick during the intro.
Your weekly guide to the world of generative AI. I am here in a weird position. If you're not watching the video, Kevin and I are actually next to each other on a couch.
This isn't AI. I can break the wall. Yeah. Look at this. We're together.
This is Dignation style. Just as a shout out to our old guest Kevin Rose, Dignation style. We are in New York City, and we came here. It's weird looking at you while we do this.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'd rather be delayed and on Wi-Fi and in my own little world.
I have to smell you while I do this, which is odd.
Do you want to describe this?
No, that's okay. We'll let the AI describe
Black
that.
licorice and leather.
Anyway, today, before we jump into all of this stuff, we want to talk about what's coming up on the show. Kevin, what are we talking about in today's show?
So a massive week in AI when we asked the industry to calm down, and they knew. We sent emails to all the heads of state, and they promised no big announcements while we were away and busy with our big presentation. But NVIDIA, one of the most powerful companies on the planet, had a 2-hour presentation.
Yeah, they did like an Apple presentation, and they kind of mic dropped 3 different things in it.
Like the Taylor Swift of tech is the NVIDIA CEO. New chips. The compute is going to get crazy fast. The future of robotics.
Same black jacket, though. Same black jacket. Jensen, we love your leather black jacket look. We wanted to get 2 black jackets for this look. We couldn't do it. Yeah. They were only ones that had giant USA flags in Times Square downstairs. So we couldn't do that. Yeah. Yes.
So we have all of the news for you. We're going to break it down. We're going to contextualize it. Just the stuff that you need to know, not necessarily the numbers on the new transistor count.
No, but those are big. Those are very big.
They are big. Plus an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Oh, no. That's worse in person than it is over.
Apple is moving big into AI. I mean, we knew they were going to, but we're finally getting some drippings of information, including some partnerships.
Excuse you? Google and Apple are partnering.
These New York pigeons, man, they make weird noises from the windowsill.
There's a rumor that Google and Apple are teaming up, which is pretty big considering they might be losing to Microsoft and OpenAI. So this is a big deal, and God knows we need Gemini in our iPhones, right, Kevin?
That's right. We've also got Elon Musk weighing in on all sorts of stuff. And what was the last thing? Oh,
Sam Altman
had some updates. New GPT-5 rumors happening. He's also weighing in on Elon because you can't not discuss him. He's the loudest elephant in the room, despite having one of the weakest AI models.
You know, his name is kind of like an elephant's name. Elon the elephant.
Oh, that would be really great. Hallucinate that
we got to make a kids book at some point.
I want to point out something. If you are new to this podcast, it is not normally like this.
No.
Please go back to other episodes. There's an ounce of, dare I say, production value with as rough as it is.
Dignation did this for 10 years. We can do this for an episode as well.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Things have moved on.
You're
Point is, this is a very special AI for Humans. I'm delighted to be here with you, Gavin.
Me too.
But don't judge us on this presentation just this week. We're doing what we can with what we have. Also, every week, this one thing doesn't change.
You must subscribe.
We beg and plead.
Subscribe. You must share the podcast. You must tell somebody. Yeah.
Do not resist.
Do not resist. It's me from the future. I am Gavin Connor, John Connor's least interesting brother. And
am I Kyle Reese or am I a Terminator?
No, you're just a boring person from the present.
I'm just a background actor from present day. I don't know where John is, officer.
To tell you to subscribe to this podcast. So please subscribe to the podcast. Look, we love everybody who listens to the show. Thank you so much for listening to the show. As we always say, people are listening. We have a regular audience, which is amazing. Please leave us a 5-star review. We will read those at the end of our show.
Whatever platform you're on, leave a comment, engage. Okay, now we hop into it.
It's time for the news.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This is the worst thing we've ever done. Please don't judge us by this podcast.
Watch it. Definitely get it. Even if you're just an audio listener, you should pop onto the YouTube just for this episode, just to see what this adventure is like.
This is scuffed.
Just let's be clear, Kevin. You and I are both holding our microphones in our hands for this whole.
If we just held them out of frame, it might look a little more professional.
That's a good idea. We should just hold them.
News. It's the AI for Humans news.
This is a crazy news week. We did not expect the news to be this crazy. We were always going to do a show, but we expected, we'll have to kind of come up with a few things, a couple stories. Honestly, the biggest thing that I've seen in a while, really, I think since Sora, NVIDIA did a giant 2-hour live Apple keynote type of show on Monday and kind of blew us away with what they announced.
Yeah, they're forecasting, and look, they're saying this is a new industrial revolution. Sundar Pichai called AI perhaps
Fire.
the biggest invention since fire.
Called
And
fire.
I'm assuming our audience is familiar with the invention that is fire.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is saying that the future is this AI industrial revolution. And that's convenient because if this is a gold rush,
Yep.
they are selling pickaxes. And what they showed off this week are faster pickaxes
Yep.
that are fully integrated so that if anybody wants to get into AI at the enterprise level, even at the prosumer level, which
Yep.
we'll get to, they have solutions for everyone. Custom hardware, custom chips, even with robotics. I mean, this was a 2-hour. He was almost like a rock star on stage, and in many ways is in the tech sector.
Yes. NVIDIA, in case you're just not familiar, you may not be, NVIDIA is a technology company that got famous making graphics cards that powered video games for computers and consoles. They have now specialized in graphics cards that really became the main computing source for AI models. So they are probably the most important cog in the AI production wheel. Their stock is to the moon, as they say, because of how much of the AI world depends on NVIDIA chips. And Kevin pointed out Jensen Huang is their CEO, who, is a rock star now. Like,
Very
I mean, I
much so.
think that in the previous years, you had Steve Jobs, and you think about the rock star CEOs, you think of Mark Zuckerberg, you think of people in that level. He's there, which is funny because he is a nerd. He is an awesome nerd. Like, this
Yes.
is a guy that did not come out of a marketing department necessarily.
This is not a concert. You have arrived at a developers conference. There will be a lot of science described, algorithms, computer architecture, mathematics.
He came up through that, and of the 2-hour presentation, so much of it was like petaflops, this many sequences of cycles of programming power, and he's a
Not
good talker.
one layer of dye on the silicone.
Yes.
2 layers of dye on the silicon. And, and to a stadium audience, packed,
Clapping.
uproarious applause.
Yes.
And we, after our presentation, we were huddled in a hotel room watching this back like giddy children on Christmas morning because these are future gifts if you believe in the promise that is AI.
Yeah.
So, the too long didn't read. The distilled for the broad audience is that they have a new architecture, new chips, and basically you're going to be able to have server farms of these chips that are going to crank out and process these AI models so much faster with so much less energy usage, so much less resource usage.
I just think it's weird that I'm sitting here next to you still. But yes, you're right. Absolutely, Kevin. You're absolutely right. The most important thing I think to take away, so there's a new chip that is called Blackwell. And Blackwell is essentially 5 times more powerful than their last AI chip.
Blackwell is not a chip. Blackwell is the name of a platform. People think we make GPUs, and we do, but GPUs don't look the way they used to. This is Hopper. Hopper changed the world. This is Blackwell.
And one of the fascinating things about Blackwell, as you can tell how big a deal this is, they rolled out quotes from Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, Sundar Pichai, CEO of Alphabet and Google, Andy Jassy, President and CEO of Amazon, Michael Dell, founder of Dell Computers.
Dell was in the house, by the way.
Yes.
The camera cut to Dell.
Yeah. Demis Hassabis, the co-founder of Google DeepMind.
Yeah.
These people all gave quotes for this new chip. Now, when you hear those names, that is the powers that be that we've talked about in AI. So you can tell this is the company that sits at the middle of all of that.
In
So
the
this
Mount
is a big deal.
Rushmore of AI, all of those faces are on the mountain.
Yeah.
NVIDIA is the mountain.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
They're the ones
Yes.
that are making this all possible. And in some ways also trying to compete with NVIDIA down the line. But right now they have all got to play nice. I'm sure the technology is amazing. But as we mentioned on previous podcasts, NVIDIA is sold out of their current hardware for like the next 2 years. And it's all of these massive companies that are their customers, buying up every chip they can because the next future of AI, whether it's video or real-time game generation or highly efficient chatbots that can code, it's all going to rely on these NVIDIA chips to process and crunch all of that data.
So it was 2 hours long. There was a lot of technical data, as Kevin and I will say. We spun through a lot of it. There was a lot of applause breaks for data numbers, which we always love. We always love. Shout out, Jensen.
Cooling got an applause.
Yes,
when they showed tubing and like advanced cooling, everybody's like, oh, yes.
A lot of amazing 3D graphics work on the tubing and server farms that we saw. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the other things besides Blackwell, the new chip. NIMs. Do you want to describe what is a NIM, Kevin? I'm giving it to you because I don't fully think I can describe it.
NIM, well, it stands for NVIDIA Interface Microservice. So think of it like a zip file or an executable file on your computer. Think of it like an app on your cell phone, if you will. Yep. What NVIDIA wants to do is make a container format for all things AI. So that means if you have a chatbot, right? That's one set of code. That chatbot needs to connect to a model, which is the data set that powers the chatbot. Well, that's another piece. If you are doing image generation, Gavin, you might have a LoRa or something which contains the character that you want to generate. You might have an interface that connects to all that. What NVIDIA is doing is offering a container, a module that you can build for it and pack all of that information into that one little thing so that in the future, if you or I want to integrate with a chatbot, if we want to generate artwork, if we want to create video, rather than having to bolt on 3 different things, grab the model, get the tool that connects to it, get the thing that lets you customize it. It's all in one. And NVIDIA is even offering basically like a marketplace where you can go and download these individual NIMs that will run on your NVIDIA graphics card.
What's interesting about this, in the presentation, they showed off a bunch of open source versions of these models that were there. Like they had Mixtral plugged into it. They had a couple other things plugged in. And I think the question will be is, will companies like OpenAI allow them to plug things like the GPT-4 API into that? I guess so. Like if the idea is supposed to be a unified kind of front end to use AI through, and again, the AI, the real money in AI is the pipeline of AI, maybe they will, but it's going to be interesting to see how this affects, because I think NVIDIA, this presentation more than anything showed me they want to be much bigger than just chips, right? It feels like they want to own a lot more of the AI conversation, which is a little bit weird to me about how all those quotes came in, because all the quotes came in because they knew those people all need to buy these chips from NVIDIA, but also NVIDIA is going to be a competitor with them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but if you're, let's say you're OpenAI or you're Meta and you've got your own AI, if NVIDIA gets to scale, and they may, because look, they've got graphics cards and
they got all the money in the world.
Homes where people are going to run this stuff, they'd have a ton of money clearly, and right now they own the compute pipeline for the most part. You're going to have to play nice. You're going to want your model on their cloud and in their infrastructure because they're going to want it to touch end users, and they're going to want enterprise users to integrate with it. Now, one of the cooler things I think that's easy to grasp, because there were pretty pictures that went along with it, is the NVIDIA Omniverse. You want to dive into that?
Yeah, so the Omniverse is their really interesting way of creating digital twins of the real world to simulate environments and allow people to plan out both building plans or robot pathways in warehouses so that you can do something in a simulated universe first, and then it would react in a real universe. So basically what you're doing here is you're building an environment that looks like a real world environment. And they showed in the video, like building a giant tanker ship or a carrier ship, or building
a warehouse, which might not sound sexy, but it's fully modeled and has physics. So if you're going to spill a bunch of cardboard boxes into an aisle to simulate a warehouse oopsie, Amazon can do that virtually. And it's super powerful because you can test the layout and the structural integrity of the warehouse well in advance. You can put your simulated machines in there and see how they were about. You can simulate humans walking around. And rather than doing this in an actual environment, which would take a lot of time, energy, and money to build, you can do it digitally and simulate millions of hours at the snap of a finger, like one Thanos snap. And you can have tons of data.
And you can also, what they showed in their videos, they showed a way they created a digital sim version of their giant new server farm for these new chips that they just announced. So they've planned out the entire thing and they know how to best lay it out. And to your point, the robot thing where it showed a robot learning how to go around a problem in the digital sim, if that way the robot doesn't have to learn it in the real place, and then all the other robots learn that together, that's how these robots get a lot smarter in the simulated universe, not in the real world. Even
pilots train for thousands of hours in simulators, right? So that they don't have to make the mistake and have the oopsie in the real world.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing and by the way, for everything, not just robots as you think, like the bipedal stomping around future Skynet stuff, but like forklifts, cleaning bots,
podcast recordings in hotel rooms.
We simulated this, and this was the best we could do.
This was the best version. I'm sorry, everybody. This was the best version.
So that's the Omniverse. And look, it has applications for autonomous driving, for elder care robots, for simulating chemicals, and even for video games.
Yeah.
One of the coolest demos, because I think we're going to end up talking about the robots next, was this, you called it a robo purgatory.
Oh my God, it was so horrifying. I felt so bad for these robots.
It was robo slip and fall simulator.
Yes.
It's this huge 3D environment where they have a bunch of robots learning how to walk and navigate uneven terrain and little pits.
Let's be clear. It isn't just that. It is a robot obstacle course designed to get them to fall over.
Yeah, it's a Robo Ninja Warrior.
Little up steps and little down steps, and they're basically throwing hundreds and maybe thousands of simulated robots and watching them fall over. And again, this is the stuff the robots are going to look at and say, why did you do this to us?
There is going to be a class action robot lawsuit in the future. A little robo attorney is going to pop up. Has this happened to you?
Yeah, one thing I do want to think about this simulated world is this is the advances that we always talk about, what is the metaverse, right? Mm-hmm. There is a world that if we start simulating all of the places in the real world like this, if enough of these get kind of connected together, that is a metaverse, right? That is
an omniverse, Gavin.
You're right.
Like the Omni
right.
channel. It's the Omniverse.
And by the way, Jensen Huang, I know we've spent a lot of time on this presentation, but it was a big deal in the AI space. This was in part created for the Apple Vision Pro, right? So within the Apple Vision Pro, which, we've talked about in the show quite a bit, there aren't a lot of use cases for yet. Wearing this and being in the Omniverse is a very good use case of the Apple Vision Pro.
Correct. And you can pilot yourself around environments and see one-to-one at scale how your environment is playing out. Really, really cool stuff. And we keep saying robotics, and that's because the robots are coming.
Yes.
Maybe faster than we expected, and NVIDIA is going all in.
Well, and so the big thing here is they announced a specific chip, the Jetson Thor robotics chip for robotics. So you think AI, you think NVIDIA is already way in advance on stuff. They're seeing the robotic stuff that we've talked about on our show that we said last week. I think there are probably 40 to 50 individual research departments, companies that have these robots that are doing things. They've created a chip for these robots specifically to get better at learning, to get better at knowing how to operate in the real world, to also learn what we've talked about, teleoperating. A lot of these robots learn by teleoperation, meaning that a human is doing something to show them how to do it, and they learn from that. All of that is going to get better with this specific chip.
And it's called Project... You say it with me. That was
Jetson Thor.
No, the project is Group.
Oh,
Kevin, the project is...
Sorry, I was confused.
The project is...
Project Gr00t. Project Gr00t.
They called it Project
Gr00t. What does Gr00t stand for?
Generalist
Robot 00 technology. So clearly, somebody's a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. They wanted to get Gr00t in there.
Gr00t.
By the way, it's not... Okay, well, I'm going to argue that that's a terrible name because Gr00t is not a robot.
No, Groot's a tree.
Groot is a tree.
Groot is tree.
It seems like, why not call it...
Because the tree is going to sprout and then have the branches, and Groot will be in everything.
Okay.
So here's what they're going to do. This Jetson chip that we mentioned, just to round it out, they want it to be everywhere. They want this thing in any robot, whether it's a grabber arm, a bipedal something, an autonomous vehicle, your future Nespresso. They want this chip, which has AI learning capabilities, can be easily simulated. They want that chip everywhere, and they are on a path to do that. And there was a shot of Jensen on the stage, digitally flanked by every robot that matters,
that was
right?
Fantastic, by the way. It's so cool. Because, by the way, you don't realize until you see them all grouped together, again, how many people are working on this right now. And again, I keep thinking as a kid that grew up loving science fiction, robots feel insane, right? I can't imagine a world where you and I are in this hotel room and instead of us holding these microphones, we have our robot.
The robot arm is adjusting to us and doing our camera shot. Yeah.
But that's not that far away anymore.
No, the beginning of that video, I felt like I was watching the intro to a science fiction movie.
Exactly.
It really did.
In a bad way, some ways. It's a little bit scary.
It was a little
right?
ominous. Yeah, it was. But or they would say,
was it
Omniverse?
Or was it Omniverses? Omniverses. It's the new show coming from Jensen Huang.
That was a 2-hour presentation. I think we distilled it into 2 minutes for you. But what you need to know is that the future is coming faster than we expected. NVIDIA wants their tendrils in all of it. And the robots will be here very, very soon.
That's correct. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
We have some big Apple news, Kevin, because the big rumor...
Because we're in the Big Apple, Gavin?
Yes, no, not because of that. But thank you so much for that. I really appreciate the attempt to bring that together.
I can't strike you through the webcam and sitting next to you. It's hard. I'm gonna sit on my hands.
Because we're in the Big Apple.
No,
Okay.
we've got some Big Apple news. Like everybody knew that Apple was
Is it
moving
because
into
we're in the
space.
Big Apple?
The city's so windy.
Let's start over.
Okay. Gavin, we have some Big Apple news.
We
Is that where you wanted to
We have
start?
some-
Everybody knows that Apple is moving into AI.
Yes.
If you have an iPhone, you might have heard, like if you have AirPods in, Apple was describing you photos when people sent them.
Which is new.
That was a big surprise,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
Autocorrect seemingly got worse overnight, probably because Apple is testing out new
Yep.
language models.
Yep.
So Apple's moving into the space, and now they've released some papers
Yes.
that show that they are training their own language model, and also some spy photos
Yes.
of Timmy Cook.
Well, let's be clear. This story is twofold. One, there is a bunch of rumors going around that there's a picture of Tim Cook and Google's Sundar Pichai talking to each other in a quiet little restaurant, like a snapped photo from afar. That turns out that photo is years old, right?
2017. It is not
Yes.
from today, but the reason it's resurfacing is that there are rumors that I think even Reuters was reporting, right?
It's from Bloomberg News, is
Okay.
where the story originally broke, that Apple is in talks to let Google Gemini be their AI model.
Yeah.
Which, listen, I get in that it's a big, Google Gemini spent a lot of money and a lot of time on their model. Apple gets second
Apple
in
gets-
class version of it, the product.
Yeah, well, look, Apple also gets billions, literally billions of dollars every year from Google
Yes.
to make sure they're the default search engine.
Yes.
How about a little handshake if they need a boost on their AI
Yes.
by leveraging Google?
Now, the thing I think about this, which is interesting, is actually feels like Apple is making a choice in that relationship. Because Kevin's right. One of the big things people may or may not know is that Google and Apple have had this thing forever. Because so many iPhones exist in the world, Google pays a literal fortune
Yes.
to Apple to be the default search engine. This might be a little bit of we think Microsoft might be getting a little too big for its britches. So we go with Google on this deal, even though they're not as good.
Interesting. I think I see it slightly differently.
Okay.
That could certainly be the case. And as we sit here in this luxurious hotel room, we actually don't know.
No, we don't.
But if I had to guess, there was some iOS code, which is the operating system that powers their
Is that the
mobile
drug
phones.
you take in Central America?
Yes. It's a ceremonial juice. You sip it and you see the future of AI.
I've heard people do that and they come back different.
Ayahuasca. No,
Oh, yeah.
okay. Enough drug talk. That's our next podcast
yeah,
when
sure.
we flip the table around.
Okay.
There was iOS code that specifically was sending like Siri requests and user requests to a version of GPT.
Right, yes.
Right? So we know that Apple has done some sort of deal with OpenAI, or is
Sure.
at least paying to use it. I would imagine a world where Timmy Apple doesn't want to show his hand like they're all in on GPT, which is still the best
Right.
model, I think, for a lot of use
Yeah.
cases. So how do you get maybe a better deal out of OpenAI and maybe Microsoft, who they've also partnered with?
Oh, that's interesting.
You see some talks like, hey, guys, maybe we are chatting with Google over
Right.
here as well.
Or the other thing in that same vein is you say, hey, Google, we know you're hurting. Kick in extra money.
Right.
And then give us a better deal and we'll use Google Gemini.
Also could be
Yes,
true. And,
yes.
and this is, by the way, Google's a little bit on their heels.
Yeah.
They're a massive company. They're going to turn out fine, I
Yeah,
bet.
yeah,
But
yeah.
they're on their heels a bit with Gemini specifically because, as we've covered in previous episodes, they had a bit of a woke gate, if
Yes.
you will.
Yeah.
They promised Gemini was going to be crazy, crazy powerful. And while it is a good model, some people were a little unimpressed with what it did. So now would be the time to strike that
Yeah,
deal,
exactly.
Gavin.
And I think who knows really what's going on. What I think is good, all I want is for Siri to be driven by a language model that's good.
By anything other than what is driving it now.
Because Siri is in everybody's pocket,
Yes.
right? And we've talked about Pi, we've talked about ChatGPT's voice app and everything like that. If Siri is actually driven by a real good LLM, and I would put Gemini in that stage
Yes,
still,
good enough.
that's all I want. So if Apple can do that deal, I'm fine.
And
I'm
look,
excited.
No company is good with your data. No company is
Yeah.
going to guard it perfectly. At least with
Apple's
Apple,
better though, yeah.
Because advertising isn't their game. Their game is markups and crazy margin
Exactly.
on basic products. Because that's their game, I trust my iDevice more, if you
Yes.
will, whether it's my MacBook or my iPhone. I trust it to do the compute locally. And so I would probably be more likely to share my email,
Yep.
my calendar, my
Yeah. Oh,
messages
interesting.
with
I
it.
didn't think about that.
And let
You're
that
right.
all be
You're right.
integrated.
You're
Yeah.
right.
So good enough would be way better than Siri.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's move on. Sam Altman,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not familiar, the OpenAI CEO, former and current, and at one point was no more, but now is the current OpenAI CEO.
On again, off again
Yes.
relationship.
The big kind of name in AI went on Lex Friedman's podcast, which is always an interesting place where a lot of news gets dropped. And he had a fun little comment where he talked about GPT-4, his own baby. So let's listen to that.
What's been the most impressive capabilities of GPT-4 to you and GPT-4 Turbo?
I think it kind of sucks.
He talks about his own children like my father talks about his children, Gavin.
Kevin sucks. He sucks.
Way less enthusiasm from Elder Pereira. My son, he sucks.
So anyway, this was a really interesting interview. I think everybody should go listen to it. Some really big kind of news was dropped.
Well,
in
what are the
this.
tidbits? Let's give him the
okay.
overview.
So first of all, he said that Sora, his experience of Sora, which obviously he's seen a lot of. He runs the company.
Sora is their text-to-video platform. It's what is responsible for all the videos that are blowing up everybody's timeline. Oh my God, I can't believe it's AI.
He says he believes that gives us the understanding that we live in a simulator world because of how well Sora can simulate its world. And if you're not familiar with the simulation theory, go on a Google deep dive. There's a lot of craziness there, but there are legitimately smart people that believe we live in a computer simulation.
Sure.
Like if I punch Kevin really hard on his shoulder, that it doesn't matter because he's not real.
Right,
I can
I'm
do
just
whatever
ones
I
and
want.
zeros. Yeah, clearly Gavin has never taken my actual human emotions into account.
And also, so what else did Sam Altman have to say, Kevin?
I don't know. I'm concussed, Gavin. If you've ever used OpenAI, now some people, by the way, if you're listening to this and you're like, I've used GPT, I've gone and I've chatted with the robot, and I was unimpressed. Chances are you didn't put money into the AI vending machine to get access to the better model. Yeah. ChatGPT-4 is amazing. Everybody uses it. It's really best in class. There are other competitors now, but people are waiting on GPT-5. And there's been rumors that it's coming out this year. Sam confirmed that they're going to release something new this year. He didn't say if it will be GPT-5.
He said he didn't know what he's going to call it.
Right.
So that may or may not be GPT-5.
Could be something new. I wouldn't mind if they rebranded it, honestly, because saying GPT this and
what
GPT
should they
that
call
is kinda, anything but GPT.
Like GP
No,
Turtle?
No.
GP Talker?
Call it Gr00t. Just get away from the GPT. It's a
Open AI-verse? Open AI-verse? Part 1?
How is it that you got to hit me, but I don't get to hit you?
Because I had the line about the simulation.
That's right.
I got this. I said it. I set it up.
Okay, maybe we can punch up his copy.
Okay, fair enough.
GPT, they're releasing something this year, but here was the interesting part, is that when specifically talking about how much better the next model will be, Sam said, and he's not one to typically hype this sort of thing.
He really isn't,
He really
actually,
isn't.
no.
But here's what he said.
You know, at the time of like GPT-3, people were like, oh, this is amazing. This is this like marvel of technology. And it was. But, you know, now we have GPT-4 and you look at GPT-3 and you're like, that's unimaginably horrible. I expect that the delta between 5 and 4 will be the same as between 4 and 3. And I think it is our job to live a few years in the future and remember that the tools we have now are going to kind of suck looking backwards at them.
The difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4, that's the delta that will be the difference between GPT-4 and whatever they release next. And I'm telling you, if you go back and try to have any sort of a conversation or get GPT-3 to do anything for you, probably not going to do it.
We use GPT-3 a lot. And by the way, we're not saying the original ChatGPT because the original ChatGPT was GPT 3.5. This is GPT 3.3 or GPT-3, which is
to the
not
broad
good.
audience right now, they're like, what are you saying?
Right.
And that's fair.
No,
That's
you're
fair.
right.
The point is the next version is not, as Sam is alluding to, it's not going to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
We're talking demonstrably better.
Yes.
Markedly better. So is it going to help you code or write or generate artwork or go surf the web and give you notes or who knows?
Yeah.
It's just going to be that much better. And again, Sam, I don't shade him or OpenAI. No. So for him to hype this, I think is a big deal.
And the last thing Sam said, he had some kind words or not so kind words for buddy old pal Elon, the former co-founder of OpenAI. He said that Elon's lawsuit, because Elon is suing OpenAI, says is unbecoming of a great builder and it makes him sad. He wants the old Elon back.
We miss old Elon.
We miss old Elon.
Kanye. We miss old Elon. And look, I thought people are waiting for Sam to say something. They're waiting for some statement. This is pitch perfect.
Yeah, it is.
Because it says, hey, Elon, I'm not mad.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Do you know what I have to say about Sam? Sam, I feel like, is the first tech giant who has come up in the clapback social media space in that he knows how to play the social media game.
Yes.
And he's not trying too hard. Elon often, sorry, Elon, you are what you are, but you are trying too hard.
Yeah.
Sam knows and grew up doing this.
Yeah.
He is somebody that you can tell is a digital snark native. And it's impressive. I always love that part about Sam.
And take it from us. When it comes to trying hard, we know.
Oh, we are hard triers. Yeah. This would be a good chance for you to punch me if you want.
I don't want
You
to,
missed
Gavin.
it. See, you missed it.
No,
You missed
Gavin,
punching me. You missed it.
This is what the audience doesn't see all the time.
Yeah.
I like you.
I like you too.
Oh, really?
Punching
They wouldn't know it.
This is the way it works.
this-
This is primitive man.
I strike out of love.
I've been listening to a lot of
Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been listening to Andrew Tate. Listening to Joe Rogan. My dog got me into all this.
Is that why you came in swinging a kettlebell?
Yes, exactly. I travel with kettlebells everywhere I go
Gavin's
now.
hopped up on
Not-
nootropics right now.
not
All right,
kidding.
he is
Yes.
on it. All
Not
right,
really.
let's hop into it because we're still talking about Elon because despite our best efforts, he does take up a lot of space.
Yes.
He is a bit of a digital vacuum.
And actually, he had a story this week, which I found really interesting. Maybe this is a little bit of the old Elon coming out. Elon says that we are going to need high universal basic income, meaning not just like 10K to everybody per year, which is not enough to live on. Elon is saying that we are going to need to figure out as a society a way to pay everybody an actual wage as UBI. Now, if you're not familiar with UBI, you probably are if you're listening to this podcast, but if you're newish to this, it basically is the idea that in the future, AI will take a lot of people's jobs, but will create a massive amount of value to the world that there will be so much surplus value that we will be able to afford to pay a significant wage to people just for living.
A universal basic
Yes.
income because you exist in a world now where there is abundance or abundance can be created essentially on demand. And so, hey, we're going to need someone to buy the things and use the widgets and exist amongst our robots.
And to make choices, right?
So here you go.
Yeah. So, and I think his thought here is that he believes there's going to be a lot of jobs phased out, which we talk about. And I think you and I both kind of agree with this, is that probably in the mid to long term, we definitely need some version
Yes.
of this. What it looks like, my pessimistic view of this and is in America, I am very worried about this ever happening.
No Patriot bucks for you?
No Patriot bucks for me, because I don't believe you would get both sides of the aisle to agree on what Patriot bucks are.
I
That is
actually
the
have a
thing.
simulation running right now in the Omniverse.
Oh, how'd it go?
It's AI bootstraps.
Oh, yeah.
And so rather than actually like make sure people have food and shelter
Yeah,
in this
you can pull us up
post-job
by
environment,
those.
yeah, we're just going to hand out digital bootstraps so your avatar
But they
can
have a
lift
picture of
itself up.
my face on them? Whose face? Do I get Patriot bucks from
They're
that?
bespoke.
Yeah.
Everybody gets their own face on their own bootstraps.
So I don't doubt that, there's a lot of people in the world who have talked about ways to give people back stuff, right? Denmark is a country where there are things like very high paid healthcare. There is some version of this. They give out money for people for doing creative work. Those kinds of countries, I could see integrating this in some form. I worry about America. I worry about the larger democracies trying to figure out a way to make it real. Do you know what I mean?
I think the
Maybe
real issue is that Elon probably used a fungi identifying AI app and thought he was nibbling on a portabella and had a transcendent experience, Gavin.
That's probably right. As Kevin just mentioned, we're moving on to our next story, which is a great article from the Washington Post. The headline is, "Using AI to spot edible mushrooms could kill you," which, yes, it can,
Sure
and
it
please
can.
do not. So the story here is
Don't
that,
do that.
yes, there are a number of different apps that allow people to identify mushrooms. And by the way, this is an amazing subculture. Have you ever dug into people who do this?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating,
I have
right?
a family member that does it,
Yeah.
and they gave us a book on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I do not trust myself to make this decision. Does this
Exactly.
look like the one on the page?
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing with mushrooms is you could either die, have an enjoyable meal, or
Right.
go on a trip and fry your brain.
Your ego could have a death. And wouldn't that be
Exactly.
enjoyable? Been there.
Mushrooms are a weird. Anyway, what this is a great article that just reiterates stuff that we've talked about again and again. Do not trust AI to do things that are super specific and could kill you, because in this article, the funny thing is they talk about a guy who goes out, uses a AI app or an app to identify mushrooms that uses AI,
Yep.
and it identified something as not the thing it was, and he got sick, right? And this is like something that could really happen to everybody. But what if this whole story was his excuse to his significant other, that he actually took these on
Yeah.
purpose? But he's like, "Hey, honey, the AI
the AI
app
told me to. What
told
is
me
that?"
this was something else."
What do you, Gavin, that's Yelp. What are you doing? I don't know. I pointed the camera at it and it told me to eat.
It wasn't the case, but that would be fun.
I like that
Yes,
story. I
all right.
like that alt version of it. Look, I don't trust AI to write our newsletter for us.
No.
I still do that
Yeah,
by
of
hand.
course, yeah.
So don't trust it with the fungi that you're going to ingest while you're out foraging. That's the story there.
Shout out to the Washington Post too, because they're doing a great job of covering some of these stories of AI gone wrong, which we think is really important in this space, right? Like, you cannot use AI for everything. Remember that. This is not a panacea. It will not solve all our problems. We really have to keep an eye out as we go along.
Yes, and remember, even with Panacea, eventually all those countries and continents drifted apart.
That's Pangea, Kevin. That's Pangea. We have a fun little bit going on here, don't we? Would you like me to punch you again?
Jesus. We need to be separated by webcams. Everybody's realizing this. I feel like I'm commenting on an esports match.
That's
like
right.
I'm amped up in a way that I don't need to be.
Exactly.
And I'm here and I'm like, they got a dragon in the woods. We got to put down some vision.
We should do a bit sometime where we an AI esports match and we comment on it.
Oh, I was okay.
Or we have an AI esports commentator as our co-host.
Comment on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea too.
Yeah.
Okay, it's now time for AI.
See what you did there.
See what you did there.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care. Then suddenly you stop and shout. AI, see what you did there. AI, see what you did there.
This is our segment every week where we look at some fun things about AI in the universe of the world.
That's right.
I'm
the
so
Omniverse.
tired.
The Omniverse of the
Omniverse.
everything. Here's the thing. Every week, papers come out, videos are released. It's stuff that maybe you and I can't actually run yet. They haven't released the code, or maybe it's teasing something that isn't even out yet. This is our little section to say, hey,
I see
what you did there. So what do we got this week, Gab?
Okay, so we're first talking about Google Vlogger.
Yes.
This is a very interesting, cool thing. You think about Gemini and all the stuff that Google does, but they also are a huge research department, and they release stuff all the time. Google Vlogger, which is a hilarious name to me because it is such an old-fashioned word.
Yeah.
We just talked about this in our presentation today, but it is a thing that allows people to use photos to bring them to life.
A single photo.
A single photo, yes. And you can use it to basically do multiple languages. You can use have people talk. It is very much like what we've seen HeyGen do with their avatar thing, but this is a one photo solution.
Correct. If you're just hearing the audio podcast, trust us. It's realistic looking photos that are moving about, but you should go fire up the YouTubes and take a look as
Trust
well.
us. That's our new sign
Trust
up for everyone.
us.
Just trust us.
You wouldn't trust these guys?
All right, Kev, what about the next thing up here?
So Magnific is an app that we've covered before. Shout outs to Javi Lopez, who's done a great job of releasing a bunch of AI tools that can enhance imagery. Now, Magnific in the past, we've talked about them because it can enhance an AI image. You can get something out of a Midjourney or a DALL-E and then add crazy detail to it. You can really, really enhance a photo using AI. Well, now they have a style transfer. So you could take a photo of, say, two podcasters in sad hotel and tell it to make it look like an anime, or make it look like it was shot on a specific type of film, or make it look like an impressionistic painting. And the results are really impressive.
And here's the thing about Magnific. Javi is great, and they've packaged this thing together. Now, could you do all of this stuff open source and free? Yes.
Sure.
We've talked about versions of this. The real benefit here is it's all in one package, right? Yeah. And we talked about the fact that like wrappers, when I say a wrapper, meaning that you take an AI tool and you wrap something around it, oftentimes it's not the most valuable thing, but if you do something that you can do a lot of things in one place and you provide insane value for people, I actually think it's pretty useful.
We could spend 20 minutes telling you how to manually do this, and the results would be questionable, and you would have a lot of technological pitfalls along the way.
Yep.
You could just go and support Javi and use the tool, and it's going to work. And one of the really, really impactful things, Gavin, that I saw was architectural drawings, where you could just kind of sketch an outline of something and then use style transfer to fill in the drawing, add the shrubbery and the tiles, really bring it to life. I'm seeing people make basic 3D models of scenes.
Yeah, it's cool.
With just like cubes and spheres and whatever else, and then saying, make this look like a dragon soaring through the skies. Yeah. So Magnific.AI is the site. You can go over there, sign up, use our promo code. I'm just kidding.
Do we? Oh yeah, we should get a promo card.
It.
Okay, it's not an ad. Not an ad. Do you know what time it is, Kevin?
True.
You know what week it is?
Oh God, it is.
This week in robots. This week in robots.
If you back us on Patreon at the $25 tier, you can punch Gavin.
That's right. We got 2 robot videos this week. We're moving through these quick, right?
We are. By design.
Talk to me about the espresso robot that we're looking at here.
Great. Let's talk about the espresso robot.
Yes.
Listen, NVIDIA, they want to power robots. One of the things that Gavin just said was that robots can learn through teleoperation.
Yep.
Well, this was an impressive demo of a robot using an off-the-shelf coffee maker.
Yeah.
I think like a little Bambino Espresso.
Yeah,
something like that.
sure, the little Bambino.
It grinds up top, and you put the little thing in, and it comes down to the puck, and then you use the milk wand to make the froth and the whatever else. It is like a standard little machine.
It's a terrible word, milk wand, by the way. I think that we should change that.
No, I think
going.
we need to brand it. I think we need AI for Humans branded milk wands.
Okay, keep going.
So if you're seeing the video version, you've got two robotic arms with little pincers, and they're going to go out and look, it's a delicate operation. It's
Yeah.
a tiny machine, but someone is teleoperating it, and it's moving at a speed that I would deem acceptable.
Yes.
I wouldn't be excited to be making my coffee at this speed, but I wouldn't be disappointed letting a robot do it for me
That's
at
right.
this speed. And so this is teleoperation, very delicate, fine motor skills, and it's working and it's doing it. And again, if you can now train machines by doing this,
Yes.
well, man, you could just throw on some goggles and do your daily routine, and maybe the robot arms in your apartment are going to know how to put things away the way you like, or how to make your coffee the way that you want it.
And again, whenever I see this, is what is the thing I hate most to do in my home?
What?
I think you would remember if you think about it.
Drain the milk wand?
No, that is not the thing I hate to do the most. It is to do my socks.
Yeah.
What I would love is a robot to do the socks and put the socks together. And I guess if I trained it enough to do the socks, it could do it.
It would totally nail the socks.
Draining the milk wand is something I never
Don't
want to
say
hear
it
saying
again.
again. I don't want to hear you say
I
that
can see your
ever
mic.
again.
You over-modulated when you said that. That's double offense.
I did?
Yes, you're doing it again.
Oh, what? Oh, no. Well, hopefully I haven't been over-modulating this whole time.
Only when you say drain the milk wand.
Okay,
I'm bleeping all that.
That,
I'm bleeping it.
you're going to bleep it?
You think we should say drain the milk wand that many times?
No, probably not.
Yeah,
Okay, fair
okay.
enough.
All
All right.
right.
The last video we have is a very cool video from Figure One, which is a well-known now robotics company. It came out of stealth not that long ago, but they are doing a giantly cool robot. And what they've done is integrated ChatGPT in their robot. And can I tell you, Kevin, one thing that makes ChatGPT feel a little scarier is seeing it in a robot.
In a robot form? Yeah.
Because this robot, when you watch it, hold on. let me
And
bring
like,
it
I
up.
know some people were more prescient than us. Like, they were concerned about ChatGPT to begin with. But yeah, when ChatGPT has like a hand that could throttle you by
Yes.
the neck, suddenly you're glad that we're aligning these things a certain way. So when you say, oh, they put ChatGPT in a robot, you think you're just having a casual conversation
No,
with the
no,
robot.
yeah.
And what they're doing here is using GPT vision to analyze the scene in front
Yes.
of them. And then the robot is acting on instructions given to it by the GPT.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a man standing across from the robot, and the robot's sitting in front of a bunch of dishes. And the man says, please clear the dishes and put this specific dish away. You can see in the robot's face or whatever, the screen, the ChatGPT interface is the same that you would see on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's listening, it listens, it takes it in, and then it responds and does the action. So what's cool here is
It even hands him an apple at some point.
yeah, you're using ChatGPT to direct a robot, and it's basically operating as the brain or you can call it the consciousness or whatever you want to call it. The robot is being directed by ChatGPT.
Yeah, it sorts dishes, it hands the person an apple, and what's really crazy is that if you watch it at like 0.3 speed and zoom in, you see a flash frame of red across the robot's face when it's thinking about tearing the human apart and wearing its skin as a
Do not
coat.
drain milk wand.
And that's This Week in Robots.
Reminder before we go away.
Yeah, we got to tell people to like, to subscribe, to leave a
subscribe.
comment, a 5-star review. If this is your first episode, so sorry.
If it's your first episode,
He
at
was
least
so
watch.
saucy
at
today.
least watch a couple other ones.
Man's on the
Me?
Zen. He was
I
on the
was
Zen.
saucy?
You struck me.
Oh, come on. Are
You-
we
we
really going to do
haven't-
this? Are we really
We're
going to
gonna
do
do
what? All right. Bring up Brenda. Tell Brenda to ask Kevin why he's being such a wimp. That's what I want to know.
Okay,
Get Brenda
and the
to get it.
toxic masculinity is coming out of his pores, and you
Tell
all
her
see it.
see what she thinks about
You all
Andrew
hear
Tate.
it.
See what Andrew.
I'm going to reload Brenda. But sincerely, this podcast is a wild one because we're here.
Yes.
We're delighted to still be able to do it. We tried our best, believe it or not. This was the best we could do with the room and the tech that we had. We both flew from LA to make this happen. So please like, subscribe, engage, leave a comment, 5-star review on Spotify, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. If you leave one there with a comment,
We'll
we
read
will
it.
read it
Yep.
in this part of the show. Tell your friends and your family. We have a newsletter that I have not written this week, but you can sign up for that. The link is over on aiforhumans.show. That's our official website.
By the way, if anybody wants us to speak, now we are speakers. We are professional speakers, Kevin. So if you have somebody that wants to speak, we can speak.
Bye, everyone. I'm done. I'm done. Goodbye. Bye, Gavin. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.